Mike Owens with Inside Fighting, and it's always a pleasure to be joined by Beneil Dariush. Beneil, good to catch up with you, my man. How are things since we last spoke?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm very well. It's all the better for speaking with you. I think the last time I spoke to you would have been, well, not, I never spoke to you in Miami, but I gave you a text to see where you were. But how was that trip?
Miami was cool. I got to watch the fights. I got to go to a Mar-a-Lago event, just stuff like that. Overall, it was pretty cool.
Were you in town for any specific reason or just to watch the fights?
Um, I would say mostly for the fights. My buddy really wanted to go, and so we went for that. But Miami in general, it's a really nice place. I hadn't really spent much time there. I had like traveled through it, but it was a lot nicer than I remember.
Well, there was obviously a big fight in your division that night, so I assume that was probably what piqued your interest. Did Paddy Pimblett's performance change your opinion of him against Michael Chandler?
Patty looked great. He really did. But my opinion of Michael Chandler isn't super high as far as his skills. So, you know, I just think Patty's in the right place now. He's in the top 10, which is a good place to be for him to really see his skills. But no, I don't think Chandler was the guy to really to test him to see how good he is.
This seems to be a consistent theme when I speak to other UFC lightweights that they don't seem to rate Michael Chandler in maybe the highest ranked fights that he's got into. Why do you think that is?
Um, because I would say, I mean, look at his fights. He beat Tony and he beat Dan Hooker, and Dan Hooker was in uh, was what I would call in a down period
Mm.
of his career. He wasn't like in a good spot, and that's it. Those are his only two wins, and even the fight against Tony, he was struggling quite a bit until that kick. So. I don't know. In Bellator he looked great, but he hasn't looked quite as good in the UFC, and so he seems like a nice guy, but I just don't think skill wise he's top 10 or top 5 or whatever.
What's up, guys? There's nothing like a huge boxing event, and this weekend we've got one of the biggest boxing events of the year, Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero in Times Square. It's going to be insane, and Inside Fighting has partnered up with our friends over at DraftKings to bring you all an incredible offer where right now, new DraftKings customers who bet $5 receive $200 of bonus bets instantly, and all you have to do is use our promo code Inside Fighting at sign up. Use those bonus bets on same game parlays or if sports betting's not yet available in your state, just go play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports. Get in on the action there. Again, new DraftKings customers who bet $5 receive $200 in bonus bets instantly, and all you have to do is use our promo code INSIDEFIGHTING.
Talking about Paddy, I mean, obviously a massive fight's going to be next for him. When you look at him and specifically what he did at UFC 314, how far do you think he can go?
Well, I really think matchmaking is important. I
Mm.
think if you get the right matchmaking for him, I think you could get him a title shot. And I think options for title shot, I think Dan Hooker would be a really good fight. I'm trying to think who else is available. Um, who else could produce that?
Gaethje, maybe?
Gaethje as well. Yeah,
Mm.
those are the two fights that I would say, those are fights he could win, and I think he has a better chance of winning. I'm not saying he can't win against the other guys, but those are stylistically better fights for him, and get him to a title shot.
Turn the conversation to you. Are we any closer to having a date or a name or an update on what's next?
I don't know. I thought I was fighting Moicano at the is it the 7th or the 8th? I don't remember. The 7th, and then I got a call that said, "Do you want to fight the 28th?" And I said, "Sure, that's fine. It's only 3 weeks difference." And then a couple of weeks later, I got another call saying, "Hey, do you want to fight Gamrot?" And I said, "Sure, that's fine." And then Gamrot got an opponent. So I really don't know. I think they're gonna try to make the Moicano fight happen, but I honestly don't know who I'm fighting. And you know, I'm not asking like it has to be Moicano. I would like somebody in the top 10. So whoever's available in the top 10, that's ideal for me.
Does that happen a lot where you're offered a name and then you say yeah and then it doesn't quite come to fruition? Like, is that a general practice?
Mm. To be honest, no. Normally when they send me a name, I get to fight that name.
So why do you think that's happening? Do you just because it feels like the lightweight division, there's a lot of flux and a lot of movement at the moment. Why do you think, that's happened?
It's a good question. Sometimes it could be injuries. Sometimes it could be just guys aren't ready to fight for whatever reason. And I honestly don't know what's going on the other side. So I can't really speak on Moicano's side. But yeah, I'm expecting to fight June 27th, but nothing's been confirmed.
So in your mind, the most likely outcome is International Fight Week, and that's on Moicano.
Um, June 27th. I don't know if it's an Nato
It
Moicano. I'll just put
okay.
it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but what I mean is you're planning to fight on that International Fight
I'm
Week date.
planning to fight that day. I just don't know if the opponent is going to be him.
Excellent. I should be there, by the way. So nice to see. I thought I've already seen you fight live once, so it'd be nice to see you fight live again.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I was in Vegas. It might have been the Drakkar fight where I fought myself, or maybe I fought again. I can't remember. My memory's not that good.
100%. Um, okay, so we've got a fight for you. What do you think happens with the title fight in your division? There's fears again, like a lot of movement at the moment. It could be Ilya Islam, it could be Charles versus Ilya for a vacant title. What do you think happens with the lightweight division?
I think the fight that makes the most sense is Ilya, but at the same time, Makhachev has fought the 45 champion before when he was, the pound for pound. So he's like, I don't want to do that. I want something else. But at the same time, he's already beat Armand before, so he's not really looking forward to fighting Armand.
Mm.
He's beat Charles. He's not really looking forward to fighting Charles. So it's um it's a, it's a weird problem to have. He wants new opponents, but there really isn't anybody except for Ilya. And but Ilya is a 45er, and that seems to be he's not really interested in it. So he might wait. That's always an option too, right? He could wait because he just fought, and he could wait a little bit and see who's going to be available.
Did if it, is Islam in a lose-lose with this Ilya situation? Because I saw somebody say online, if he doesn't fight him, people will say he's scared. If he beats Ilya, people will say he's beat another featherweight champion, and if he loses to Ilya, people will say he's lost to a featherweight champion.
Yeah, there's truth to that for sure. I mean, and it's not like Islam's going to be the underdog in this fight.
Mm.
You know, uh, if you look at Ilya's fights, he has been taken down. He can be taken down. Uh, it's not impossible, right? So I don't know. I would definitely lean towards Makhachev, and it just it's one of those things where the MMA community can be very toxic, and this is one of those cases where it's like, oh, you got to fight this guy. It's like, bro, uh, the champion gets to fight whoever he wants, kind of.
How would you rate Islam's chances on a potential move to 170? Because it feels like he's certainly flirting with the idea of, potentially how the welterweight title fight plays out between Belal and JDM.
I think he would do really well at 170. I think there are guys who could be very difficult for him. Um, I don't know. The guys like actually Bilal would be very difficult because I know they train together, but when I for example train with Bilal, one thing I realized his cardio is fantastic. I only
Mm.
got to train with him once and I grappled with him, and technically he's so proficient, he doesn't make big mistakes or mistakes in general. He stays in the right places, doesn't take risks. Very difficult to deal with. And if you don't have uh what I would call like some kind of supernatural cardio, you're gonna get tired going against them. Um, Usman would be tricky, but I don't know where Usman's head is at. Kamaru is definitely a guy who's very difficult, but there's a lot of guys at 170. Shavkat Rakhmonov, like all these guys, they're gonna be difficult for him just because of the size. The size does make a difference.
Have you ever considered a move up to 170? And if not, what do you think are the keys to moving up from one weight class to another?
Um, have I considered it? Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes the weight cut is terrible, and you're like, I'll go to 170. But when I train with 170s. even if I'm winning, I realize there's a difference in size,
Mhm.
and it's not the best idea for my career. So I
Mm.
don't typically do it, but I understand if you're the champion and you're going directly for a shot at the belt, it makes more sense. Yeah, and who were you asking about? Who
What
does
I
the
was
champ?
ask what I was asking was is what do you feel like the keys a fighter would need to implement when moving up from one weight class to another?
I would say don't gain too much weight. That's because technically speaking, typically the smaller guys are more better. They have more proficient technique. So I would try not to gain too much weight because you're moving up because you're struggling already at
Mm.
55. So, why add to your struggle when you go up? Um, yeah, and then your game planning and is gonna have to be even better. Just being in better positions, not taking damage. It's everything kind of gets heightened. You have to
Mm.
be more sensitive in all the areas because now you have a whole new layer to deal with, which is that size, which becomes a problem in everything, in striking and grappling. It becomes an issue of cardio because if you have a guy who's 10 pounds, 15 pounds heavier than you and is laying on you between, every round, you're gonna feel a little bit more tired.
Mm. How close did you ever come to making the move up to 170? Was it just a thought, or was there actual conversations with your management or with the UFC about booking you a welterweight fight?
Mostly just the thought.
Mm.
I every time you start cutting weight, you're like, what am I doing? Let's go to 170. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely happened a few times.
So I'm assuming you've had that thought on the Thursday evening of a fight week when you're just about to get in the sauna or the bath or whatever you do to cut that weight.
Yeah, I have it definitely the week of the fight, but then, you know, I would say like 3 weeks away from a fight, 4 weeks away from a fight, you're like, I wouldn't have to go for this one
Mm.
hour run or I haven't had like an actual meal and I'm gonna drink some coffee and then go for a long run. Like I don't even know if this helps me with my fighting, but all it does is make me skinnier and you start to have those thoughts even though running is excellent for fighting. So it's I would say that's worse for me than it is fight week because if I do a good job fight week, the weight cut isn't awful.
Mm. Would you favor Islam in a fight against Belal or against Jack Della Maddalena?
Um, I think I would definitely favor him against Jack because I haven't seen too much grappling from him. But against Bilal, I don't know if I would favor him.
Mm.
Bilal is really that good.
Yeah, 100%. Um, before I let you go and before we finish on talking about you, I wanted to get your thoughts on the BMF title that was booked yesterday between Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. The trilogy is set for Dustin's retirement fight. What do you make of that booking?
Yeah, they really want Dustin to get that BMF belt. um, it'll be a great fight. Every single time they fought has been awesome. Kind of weird that they're making this fight because Dustin has won the fight twice, but uh, it is what it is. I think they want give Max an opportunity to kind of step into the top five again and like truly into the top five, even though he beat Justin. I don't know. And then they're hoping maybe if Dustin wins, you can kind of give him that ride off victory that he always wanted.
Have you? I'm not sure if you've seen this, but I've seen a lot of backlash to the fight. A lot of people saying the fight that nobody wanted. Are you surprised with that at all? Because I can see it from a star power angle. I'm kind of surprised that some fans have thought about it in that way.
They- Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get what the fans are saying. The fights happen, but like I said, MMA fans might be the worst. We have the
Mm.
worst culture, so um, yeah, they'll complain about anything. You can give them anything you want, and they'll still somehow find a way to complain. So it's a great fight. As an athlete, it's good for me to be able to see it because there's a lot I can learn from it. But and as a fan, I think it's going to be spectacular. But for whatever reason, because we've had too much of it already, we don't really want it again.
Last question from me, and thank you so much for your time. We have the date we think, we have the name potentially we think. What are the goals for the rest of 2025, assuming that everything goes as planned at UFC 317?
Or- Originally, my goal was to fight 3 times this year.
Yep.
Now the goal is to just get 2 fights hopefully this year. So that's it. Because if I could get 2 fights and win, I could be back in contention.
100%. Beneil, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for making some of your time, especially on one of your teammates' fight weeks. And we look forward to seeing you back in action soon and look forward to, and thank you as always for your time.
Appreciate it, brother. Take care.